Hello and welcome to another follow along video. Today we will be making a blog using Next.js, React, and using a headless CMS for the data. So the headless CMS we will be using is Prismic. I will split this up in two parts since it can get a bit long. So for part one, we will be setting up a new Next.js project and also creating all the HTML and CSS templates. And for part two, we will create a Prismic project and create all the templates in Prismic and enter some data, and then finally connect the data to the Next.js project and deploy the project. So part two, everything will be finalized, but in part one, we will start creating the web app, but with fake data. So I've prepared some tabs in Chrome. The first tab I've opened is Next.js documentation. So we can see here and follow this to see what we'll need to do. And then I found this minimalistic WordPress template that we can use for inspiration for creating our websites. I think it's nice sometimes to base your design around something so it takes a little less time, because you can get stuck with changing little things in the CSS and it will take forever. So now we just want to make it quick. So let's get started.
Code with Victor.
Code with Victor.
So the first thing we're going to do is create a new Next app. I like to use Yarn, but you can use NPM if you want. It doesn't really matter. So in my terminal here, let's see, I usually have everything in projects. Let's create it here. Let's call it my blog. Great, so now it's installing all the dependencies that we need. So we can enter here, and you can see here that we already have a Git repository. That's nice. And let's start it. So it will be running at localhost 3000. So let's go there. Here we go. So we should have the code now. So let's enter here, my blog. On our page, you can see we have node modules, we have pages where all the page code will be. And we have public, which is for public static files like images and stuff like that. And we have a styles folder with some default styles. And then we have our config file, package.json, readme, joinlock. So let's go to our start page. So what we want here, we want, this is our inspiration template. So this would be the home page where we have a header where this could be the name of the blog. Here we have a menu. So for us, we can have a about page, which would be just a simple content page. Let's enter that actually. So it's just a title and some text. And then we can have an archives, which would be a list of all our blog posts. And actually we skip contact for this walkthrough, just about an archives. And then you can enter a blog post, which would be title and text. And for the start page, we'll just print all the blog posts with a divider here between them. Okay, nice. But our homepage currently looks like this. So we'll change that. And actually, let's do like this. So we have the template here. You can code side by side. So let's open the CSS. So this is default. So let's just remove all the default CSS. And for title, we can call this my blog. You can see that it will update here. So now it says my blog as a title. And you can see here that we don't have any CSS here, so it looks kind of bad. And let's just let's see. Let's remove this thing here. That. Let's remove the meta description for now. Okay, So now we have this. So the first part I'm going to do now. So first of all, right now we won't be using any real data. So everything will be hard-coded in this part. And for the next part, we will change the hard-coded parts to actual data. So with that said, the first part I will be creating is the header here. So let's make that into a new component. So I like to create components in a components folder. So let's do like this, components. Let's call it header. And we can import styles from, oh, let's see how they do it. The index, import styles like this, so we can follow that system. Import styles, and let's see, export default function header, which is our component here. And yeah, that should be enough there. And let's add it to styles as well. Styles header, yeah, styles header module CSS. Okay, nice. Now I have the header component and a CSS file for it. So we have the header here, and let's just use a header HTML element, and let's just call it header. We have our header style here, and we have the title. Oh, actually, this is a link. Yeah, this is linked to the start. So let's see. We have Next.js links. So let's see how they are supposed to be used. So we can use Next.js links like this. So the difference between writing like this instead of writing it like this is that when we use a next link component, then the Next.js can take care of the routing. So that means that it can first of all, it can optimize some things. So it can preload the page, which is the about page in this case, when the user hovers above it. So it can do smart things like that. So when you actually click about, then it's already loaded, so you can show it instantly. So that's kind of nice. So make sure that when you use when you're creating a Next.js project, always use link component when you do internal links, at least. So for external links, you can just use a normal anchor tag. But this will be an internal. It will go to the home page, and we will call it my blog, which is the title. And yeah, that could be enough. Let's see. Actually, maybe that's bold. So let's set a class here, title. We'll fill these in later. And then we have our menu. So let's call that menu, which is this part here. And these links will also be hard-coded for now. So we'll add a link to about. These links will look the same, so we don't need a special class for that. And let's do it the JavaScript way to do it, just a single line. So let's see, archives. Okay, so now we have the HTML for it. Let's see. Let's add it to our start page here. Let's remove these parts. Let's see here. What do we want to do here? Okay. So we have our header, and we need to import our header. So like this, header from, and we're in pages. So like that, components, header. Okay, so now it should show a header if we did everything correct. Yeah, there we go. There's our header. And let's style it like this one. Let's actually, Let's actually see how they have a max width on body. Okay, let's see. Let's just set let's just do whatever. Oh, actually, one thing I like to show before we get into this. So I think we have a global CSS file here. So this is the default global CSS file in Next.js. And this looks good, font family. I like to set font size to 10 pixels. You could set it to percentage here, but sometimes I find that that's a little bit buggy. But it's probably better to set it as percentage if you can manage it. But for now, for simplicity, set it to 10 pixels. And what this does, when we set font size to 10 pixels, that means that we can use REM values quite easily. So for instance, for this header, if we want maybe, I don't know, 50 pixels padding on the vertical and maybe 20 pixels on horizontal, we can do like that. So 2 means 20 in this case. So you can see here that now here, if we get computed, then it says 50 and 20. So that's what we wanted. And okay, let's see. So now we want this to be on the same line, so we can use flex for that. Maybe we want the font size to be a little bit bigger, maybe 1.8, or maybe a little bit more than that, 1.6. So it won't look exactly like this, but just this would be just a reference. And so this actually uses smaller than 16 pixels, I think. Yeah, 14 pixels. But I find that 16 pixels for your font size is the most readable. So let's just use that. And the title could be bold. And let's see, could be auto margin. So then we push our menu here. And for the menu, let's just, let's see, let's make that flex as well. And each link could have a left margin of maybe 1 or 2. Okay, great. So now we have our menu. That's good enough. You can see we don't have a max width here, so maybe we want to add that. And let's add that to our main here in our index page, so that we could potentially use this menu in other settings. So we lay out in here. So let's see. We have our home. We have a main. Oh, sorry, a main class, which is this class here. And let's set a max width of, I don't know, 1000 pixels maybe. You can see that we get a max width here, and probably we would like to have it centered as well. So now it's centered. You can see it's like responsive, sort of. Now we have our menu. That's good enough for that. And we like to list all our blog posts on the start page, like this. So let's see. This is the full blog post. Okay, I'm thinking that we want to create maybe like a blog component which can take this information and render it. So let's see. Let's just create some dummy data here. Posts could be an array, and you have the first post, could be this title, and the content or text let's call it content. This data will probably change later when we have the correct data from the CMS. We'll have to see then how it looks in the CMS, but for now this could be good enough. Let's just add some text here. Like that. Let's just assume for now that this is yeah, let's just assume that this is markup, like a normal, or sorry, markdown. And let's just actually add this part just to see that we can have some markdown. There's our first post, and let's actually maybe should have a ID as well. Or it will have a slug. That's probably, yeah, it will have a slug. So this will be called primer. And the next will be primer 2, just for simplicity. So now I have 2 posts. Now we have to print them, and this will be like a list of blog components. You can see here in this example they have an article DOM element for each blog post. See, the next blog post is down here, and we have a divider for each one. So let's create a similar thing. We create our blog, or maybe blog post component, blog post, and here we're going to be looping our post. Let's see, did I call that post? Yep, post, and we'll map it to a blog post component, and the data could be inserted like that. And this will give an error because we don't have the blog post component created yet. So let's create that. We have components, blog post, and we default, we export it, blog post, and it will take a title and content. Great. And it will return an article like that. And actually, in the home page, we like to set the key to the slug, because the slug should always be unique. So we can use that as key. And let's just see here. So is this, how do you do it here? This is a H2 for each entry, but when you enter it, it's probably an H1, right? Yeah. So it's, when you enter the page, it will be H1. For SEO purposes, you want your H1, your main header, to be, so in this case, this is the main header for this page, obviously, but here we have multiple headers, so none of these are the main header. And here, let's see, yeah, in this case, this is the H1, and here it's a paragraph instead. So let's see, maybe we can also send in then that, let's see, so we have title, content, and we can add is main page or something. And in this case, it's not main page. So if it's the main page, then it will be, the title will be an H1, like I said, title, and we can set, call it title, and otherwise it will be an H2. And let's import our styles. Let's see how we did that. We did that like this. See, blog post, and we need to create that styles. Blog post, module CSS. And let's have a base style, post. Okay, so we have post, we have title, and let's see how that looks here. Yeah, there we go. And let's see, maybe we'll have the same padding as the header, like that. And let's see. So the title could have a font size of maybe, how does this look? 4? Oh, that's quite large. 2.5. Great. And we want a divider. Oh, right. Another thing that I like to do, I think we don't have here. see, globals. Yeah, I like to just reset margins and paddings at the start like this. So I always do padding 0. We can move this padding 0, margin 0, and box sizing border box. This is like a simple reset so you don't have any default margin or default padding, and also border box is much easier to understand in my opinion. Because different browsers have different defaults for margin and padding. So now we know that we don't use the browser defaults. It's always 0 from the start. So let's see here. So now we have our blog posts here. We like to have, we can see here that they actually have a small divider between articles. Let's see if I find one. There we go. I'm not sure if this is visible in the video. It's quite subtle, but let's add that. So what I like to do here is, since this is a list, I don't want the divider to be in the regular blog post. I'll just add like a divider or a wrapper here. So div, let's call it post. And for our home module then, let's add a post and border bottom. And this will be 1 pixel. And let's make it CCC color maybe. Okay, cool. And we only want this for if it's not the last child. So there we go. It's divided there. And we can add a padding to the bottom. And do we always want that? Let's do like this. So maybe 100 pixels. That's a bit much. Okay, there we go. Okay. Nice. Now I have a post title here, and a divider. Cool. And in our blog post, we want to now print the content. So if I just do like this, styles content, just print our content like this, and it won't be looking very good. So since I will assume that this is markdown, I'll just find some way to render it as markdown. And I know there's something called marked. Let's use that. So this is the dependency marked. So I'll install that here and add marked. So now I should be able, let's see in the documentation how it's supposed to be used. Here we go. So this is what I want. So, okay, we can import marked here. And actually, let's use hooks for this. So use memo. Let's call this HTML content maybe. Use memo marked content. So we'll update this when content is updated. Let's see. This probably won't work now, but we can see that we get our paragraph paragraph elements. So now we can just set this with instead of using React here, we can just set it as HTML directly. Dangerously set HTML. I think it's like this. Let's see if this works. Otherwise, I have to look it up. Something like that. Okay. Something like that. Dangerously set inner HTML. Okay. Probably a big I there. Dangerously set inner HTML. Did you mean? Yes, that's what I mean. Oh, HTML should be capitalized. Okay, there we go. Now we have the content here, and let's just do some simple styling here. So we need to go into our blog post module, And we have content. Let's set a base font size to maybe 1.6, so it's very readable. Title could have a margin of 2, maybe. Yeah. And paragraph tags could have a margin of 2 as well. And let's see. And let's actually change that content to an H3 because now it's this will be an H2 now, since our markdown here had 2 squares like that. So let's change that to H3. And we'll add, okay. Actually, for H3, maybe we want some top margin as well. Okay. And maybe actually our title like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Or good enough at least. And now we want an about page. Let's see what we're going to do next. So we need, this actually should link to the blog post when you click on it. So let's do that first. The H1 should be a link. We know we add links like this. We can get the slug here. Let's see, maybe it should be blog slug like this. Let's see. And I need to import link, obviously. Next link. Okay, now we can see that this links to primary and this to primary too. And currently it's a 404 because we haven't created this page yet. But let's start with this page since it's the simplest, I think. So, and let's see. We have the page here. Let's just copy this part and we need to create a pages, and our URL now will be blog and then the slug for the blog post. So it will be pages, blog, and then slug. And I just copied everything here for simplicity. So our data here will be hard coded for now. So we'll just always use the first blog post here. Let's see here. But when we get the correct data, then this will fetch the correct data. But for now, since it's hard coded, just add something. Let's see here. We did get some. Let's see. It can't find style. Oh, that's because we're actually in a even more nested directory. So let's do like that. So this shouldn't be 404 anymore. Oh, obviously we don't have posts. So we can do like that. This style should come from, let's call it index. Or no, sorry, blog page maybe. Cool, this doesn't need a key, and this will be data. So now it should render at least. Oh, I haven't created this blog page, of course. Let's just copy that from home as well. So we go to styles, blog page. And we don't need this part. Let's see here. Okay, so now we can go to our main page where we have a list of our blog posts. And if I click a blog post, then I go into the blog post page. Cool. And for our about page, maybe that looks like a blog actually. Yeah, it's pretty similar. So let's use the same component, I guess, even here. We can use blog post for the about page as well. So for now, they will look very similar, but later we'll use different templates in our CMS. So let's add, let's see, this should be on about. So now it's just pages about.js. And we have this about. We can still use the blog post, and let's just reuse the blog page. Oh, now it's not nested that deep, so we can add this. So now we have something here. Let's just change this data to like about. Yeah. And you saw that I removed the slug here because I think maybe this, oh, this about is actually also clickable. Okay, we can keep that. About, but the slug here is about, obviously. Or actually, this will link to a blog page. So let's remove slug, and in our blog post component, let's change this to only link if we actually have a slug. So like this. So if it has a slug, otherwise, just print this part. There we go. So now our about doesn't have a link. We can see when we enter here. Now it's still a H2, right? Yep. So our blog post here should have his main page, and also for blog here will be his main page. So now that we can see here, it's an H1. Okay, cool. So now we have a blog post, we have our home page, we have an about page, and let's create our archives. That will be, let's see, that will be a new page, which we'll call archives. And let's reuse the same post array here. And let's call this archives. And let's see what that is now. Okay, then there's archives, but we want it to look like this. So we want to have a title called archives. Let's create a separate styles for this page, archives page. And let's just copy from home again. So page styles, archives page module. Here we go. And let's add a title here. We'll say archives. Okay, there we go. Let's see, our main. Okay, so our title, we want to have the same padding as we've used previously. Like that, maybe some margin, or actually, supposed to, yeah, like that. Maybe, I'm not thinking much right now. I'm just doing some values. Actually, let's see how this title, let's just copy it from the blog post title. Blog post. So the title looks like that. Okay, so it's 4 instead. Okay, cool. Now we want to have a list here. Oh, we can see the blog post should have a date as well. So let's add that. So let's just add a date here. Use the same as here, 2013, and the month is January, so that's 0 in date, the first month, and the date would be 11. And for next one, just do January 10th, 2013. So it was quite a while that this was created. So now I have that. Let's see. So instead here, instead of listing the blog post like this. We just want a link to it, the title, and the date here. So maybe that could be a component as well. So let's call that, let's see, maybe this could be a component, this row. So blog post archive link. So the biggest thing in programming, as you maybe know, is how to name stuff. So let's just name this like that, and archive link. Yeah, that could be like that. Let's see. So if we enter a blog post component, we can just copy this part. Component, blog post. Do we call it archive link? A blog post archive link. Yeah, looks like it. We don't need this memo part since we're not going to render the content, so we don't need the content at all. The style should be from blog post archive link, and let's create that. Styles, blog post archive. Cool. Its main page is not right here. We need the date though. So this will always have a slug, so we can remove this check. Always have a link. This probably shouldn't be article. Let's just use div. And let's see, let's call this the title. And title like that. Or should, yeah, this should be the link. So we have the title here. Then we can add a date, time, like that. Let's see how that looks. Multiple children. Let's see what I did. We're in archives. Let's see. Oh, this shouldn't be in link. So, oh, sorry, like that it should be. And date is not okay to use here. Let's just do 2 strings, then it should be a string. Obviously, we want to format this to look a little bit better. But for now, just style this. Let's see, we have post. Let's do some padding. So we use the same padding as everywhere else. Let's set a font size to 1.6. And the anchor tag could have color of blue, maybe. Okay, nice. Similar to this, it's not exact, but similar. And we want to have the date to be to the right. So the post could be a flex as well. And let's see, align items. Is it align items or justify? It's justify, of course. Justify content. Okay, so now we have this. And so this is the blog post component. And for our wrapper div, here we can add the margin. So we have here in our, let's open archive page. We can style post to have a small margin, 2 maybe. Okay, cool. In our archive, we can see that this links to primer, and this links to primer 2. And we want to style this date here. So what I like to do is create a utility function that we can call formatDate, that we can reuse in other places. So let's do that. We can close this here. Let's just call it utils formatDate. And here, yeah, actually, let's do this by creating a test file first. So I created, you can see down here, it's formatDate.test.js. So now I can show some testing. So we need to import formatDate like that, and then test if it works. Okay. And let's see here. So we're going to be using Jest here. Let's actually check out the documentation just to make sure that we're doing it correctly. So you can see here we need to add, I don't think Jest is included by default. Let's see. No, it's not. So we want to, like they say here, add the script test. So test Jest. And want to add Jest like this. Then you can see you tested like, yeah, so I was on the right path there. formatDate. So if we go back to, okay, actually, let's just, before we leave this page, just, this will give an error for now, but let's import the format date here and call it here like that, so that when we have written all the tests and the tests passed, then we know that this will look correct. So let's see how we did. Let's see, archives. Okay, so we want the date like this date. We want it to format to this. And we want this to format to this. I don't know. This is quite a weird test to check like this. Maybe we want to check more other cases. Maybe just add to use February to have something else. And okay, so now we can see here that if we start the test like this, and we start watching the test, and currently there's an error because obviously we don't have format date yet. But if we add that, let's see, format date, export, format date, and it takes a date. Return a string for now. Okay, so we still get an error. So the error here is that it can't, so just can't parse this file. It's a little bit special since we're using import, which is not supported by default in Node, which Jest uses. So what we need to do here is to use the same Babel file or Babel config as Next.js uses. So let's just actually Google how to do that. Next.js Jest. Let's see. Babel RC, okay. Cool. It wasn't more difficult than that, it looks like. Babel RC, presets, next. Let's see what happens now if I do it. Okay, so that was it. We needed a Babel RC file to use next Babel presets. But now we get an error because, now we get a normal error. This is the error that we wanted from the start. So now we can see that our test doesn't pass because it receives an empty string, but it wants to receive this. So let's just make sure that this format date function works. So let's create an array with months here. January. That's correct, right? Let's actually, instead of just checking if it's correct, let's add December here. Instead of me trying to count this correctly, I know that December will be the 12th. So this is 0 index, obviously. So the 12th month. So I just make sure to add that to the test so we know that it's correct. So what we now want is first to have check the months, get month. So now we can see we get January, and then we want the date, get date, and then let's see, oh, we need the year. Okay, so now the test passed, so everything here looks correct. So now we can go back to our page here, and we can see that it formats the date as we wanted it to. Okay, nice. So now we have our archives with the correct dates. We have an about page. We have a home page. And yeah, that's it for this part, I believe. Yeah. So now we have our Next.js setup. We have our different routes created. We have some tests, some unit tests. And for the next part, we will be adding, or we will be creating a CMS, a headless CMS instance on Prismic, and we'll use the Prismic API to connect data to these templates here so that we get correct data, and then we'll deploy everything. So see you in the part 2.